pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a motion to open the meeting?
Motion.
Second. We'll get Trino in because he's getting out. Trino seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from October 7th. Has everybody had a chance to review those and look at them? Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Do we have a motion to accept those minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Bob accepts. Any second?
Seconded.
Sam seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Next item is possible extension or abandonment of applications pursuant to town code. We have none. Public hearings, we have none. The items for discussion and action, the first item here is 13 Cedar Swamp Road, 19-1-67.21. The applicant submitted a site plan that depicts a 17 by 34 foot, it says inches, but foot, in-ground pool with a 25 rear yard setback. The minimum requirement is 30-foot minimum. The applicant is seeking an area variance for the encroachment initial presentation. Before we start that, Frank, you mentioned that you wanted to have an opportunity to do some clarification and make sure we're understanding the situation properly.
So yeah, there's a couple of emails. Grace sent one, and then I followed up with one. I probably confused it more than simplified it, but the application states they're looking for a 5-foot setback encroachment. So yes, the setback for that house is 30 feet rear yard. Okay. Just wanted to clean that up because it was as written on the previous agenda, it was incorrect. So the setback requirement is 30 feet. They're looking for a 5-foot setback, a variance of 5 foot.
Okay.
That's that cut and dry.
And this is an existing
Yes,
pool?
it's an existing
Is
pool.
it newly constructed?
Newly constructed home a few years ago now, 2022 roughly, right?
Yes.
Relatively no.
Okay.
So in other words, the contractors put the pool in incorrectly?
So what happened was the application came in, we reviewed the site plan, and the pool was supposed to be inside the setback area. Apparently it was built 5 foot outside the setback area. That's where we are. I mean, you can let the applicant speak.
Just, and that 5 foot is the corner of the area where it says pool.
That's correct.
And the applicant can address this too, but I noticed that the filter and some of that other equipment is well within
Yeah.
the buffer.
I just go with the pool, not the equipment. That's how I've done these plan reviews.
Okay. If that's consistent, then.
It's consistent with my past practice.
Okay. So, where do you want to start? Do you want to have the applicant, do you want to describe the situation and talk about how we got here where we are?
Yeah, of course. Good evening. My name is J.R. Goldberg. I'm the general manager of Anthony and Slyton Pools for the Northeast Delaware up through New York State. We constructed this pool, as you said, a couple of years ago in conjunction with a new construction home. To my knowledge, and this predates my involvement with the project by a tiny bit. To my knowledge and to my measurements when I went out and went, the pool is where we located it on the initial application. For me, it's very difficult to understand why it's off. I don't want to blame the surveyor or anything like that. We will fall on the sword here completely. It seems as though one corner of the pool project is within the setback. The homeowners are content and accepting of where the pool is. The pool has passed all other inspections that were done throughout the project with the exception of, the final inspection when an as-built was requested, and that's when we submitted this new paperwork. We never applied for a variance once the as-built was rejected by the township until I got involved, and now I'm presenting it to you and just trying to go above board. It's not our intent to do anything untoward, or it's not our practice to build into building setbacks. In this case, we were constructing a pool in an area where we thought it was accepted because the location was where we initially had it marked, and we had passed all existing inspections. But again, we're willing to entertain any ideas for remediation or answer any questions you guys may have.
What it'll cost you to put the pool right?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Any runoff or anything caused by the location, anything environmental?
There are no grading issues whatsoever on the property, and we're a significant distance away from the side neighbor, hundreds of feet. There's no, with the way that the yard grades, there's no grading change that was necessitated by the pool. Grading is the same existing grading that was there previous.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was some sort of screening, right? Fencing or vegetation back there?
We did put, they have an existing pool fence, and then during construction, we had E&S controls up the entire time. Those are no longer present, but they're, again, not necessary currently.
This is the rear setback, right?
Correct.
And what is currently behind the property?
The last time I visited the property, I could not see the neighbor that would be on the rear setback. You do see a neighbor on the side setback. And this corner in some ways encroaches on both, right? So, but that neighbor is significantly downhill and far away. They are below grade of the existing pool, so it does not encroach upon their view in any way. It does not encroach upon their existing grading or cause any drainage issues.
Is there some sort of woodland buffer back there, or is it just open?
There's a woodland buffer on the rear, but not on the side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the neighboring rear parcel, you start getting into the black dirt, and it's all agriculture back there.
Is it zoned differently, the adjacent properties? Is the Penna,
They're close.
is the Petaluna property zoned
I don't have
residential?
the map, but yeah, this is RU zone, this particular parcel. You start getting into the AI. I just don't know where the line is. Yeah.
Can you give some more information on how exactly it happened that it was submitted and it was within the setback, and then like it came back as built and it wasn't, like when you did, I guess, and you can explain
Sure.
more, but when you submitted it, was there paperwork and it was in the within the setback on an original filing plan? Is there
Yeah,
anything that shows that?
let me answer that one.
Thanks,
Yeah, so
Ryan.
when the application came in, this is the site plan that was presented, and it shows the pool within the setback, inside the setback limits.
Right.
Permit was issued. When the final survey came in for the home, there's two separate permits, but it was at the same time. When the final survey came in for the home for me to grant the certificate of occupancy, came to light that the pool was outside the setback limit.
Okay.
Was there, do you know, Frank, this may predate you too? This may predate
Yeah.
everybody here.
Go
But
ahead.
given that there was confusion about the rear setback being 25 feet, 30 foot, was that a possibility on our end?
No, I don't
Or on
know.
the-
In fact, the only thing I could think of is, it might have been a typo that got onto the agenda sheet.
Oh, okay, so that's it, all right.
Yeah. As the permit application came in for the home, it was clearly 30 feet, depicted 30 feet rear yard setback.
So what percentage of the pool would you say is currently within those,
Less than 5% of total water surface.
That's, I was gonna ask, as the pool is showing, oh, sorry.
No, go.
That is the pool, as the rectangle and with the chip lines going over, that is the actual pool area.
Correct.
Not just the surrounding, the apron all around the pool.
Do you mind if I approach and I can show you right there?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can step behind you guys, is that the
Yeah, no,
easiest
it's
way?
all, whatever's easiest.
Yeah.
So I have the same drawing that you guys have.
This is the house, this is how you come up, this is the pool. It's this corner right here is the only thing that's in the setback.
But that is pool, not apron or anything like that around.
It's just water, yeah, it's
No,
water.
that's what I'm
It's
saying.
not like a
If it had a
concrete
pool, you
pad
have to
around
add a big apron all
deck.
around it, that's what I'm saying.
There is a deck, but I don't know if that's the, forgive me, we'd have to go with the zoning and building. I'm not sure if the setback is to water, to structure, or to decking. It differs per township.
Yeah, so,
And furthermore, the was not on contract. So.
last time you're talking about decking around the pool?
Yes.
All right, so I'm not aware of that at all at this point. I'm just focusing on the pool itself.
Yeah, what my point was, not to split hairs, but we do split hairs in this.
Sure,
We're-
yeah.
We are. I'm asking if that triangle in essence that goes over the line, is that decking or concrete or paving? Or is that actually part of the pool?
I read it as it's part of the pool.
Okay.
What's represented there is water surface.
Okay.
So
That's-
potentially, because we've had people seeking variances for a deck,
Mhm.
in the same thing, the concrete pad around it, the concrete deck could extend this further, so it could be greater than the 5 foot,
It could be.
right? But, I mean, that would be somewhat, I mean, of an interpretation on your part in
Yeah.
terms of what's the pool and what's not, but
Yes, I see what your point is. I would have to get a little more information and a better handle on it, of this decking. Was it ground, right on the ground?
Yeah, no, when I say decking, I mean like poured concrete or
yeah,
pavers.
that's what I'm
something like
referring
that.
to as well.
But I don't, from my understanding, and you can correct me, what is the setback to in the township? Is it to water or to beam?
The actual water, the pool, the
Yeah,
pool
okay.
itself, not a brick patio or
Okay,
anything.
so that would not, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's not the concrete around, like a 5 foot
Right.
ribbon around, not counting that?
Not
Okay.
counting
So
that.
that's not part of it?
They could pour up to the property line if they wanted to.
If anything, this is a real hardship, case. You know, when it comes to the zoning board, this is really, I mean, it's completed, done.
Yeah, my issue with redoing the work, one, aside from creating a hardship for the customer and a hardship for us financially, would be, I would be concerned regarding angle of repose, going into the moving it closer to the home. It's not a huge concern, but you know, I don't know, on this, it looks like we have a significant amount of room, but, you know, they would, with the amount of demo work that would need to get done, I would say we were doing a disservice to the customer in this case, by redoing it.
And behind, on the side that we're concerned, there's another resident back there. I can't, this is so small print, I can barely read it.
There's a resident on like Downey Road, the where Penaluna is.
Honolulu, that's a resident, that's an owner there, a
Yes.
home there.
Yeah, there's a home there, but then you can't see a home on the Rogowski, what's labeled as Rogowski there. That home is not visible from my trips to the property.
Yeah, this is Pelnuna.
Okay, so you can't see from there.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, nice. Oh, it's all woods and trees behind it.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, glad you showed me that. That gives it different perspective altogether.
Right on the block there.
Yep, yep. All right.
That's all I got.
Yeah, we have no
You
problem.
guys have any
We can do it.
questions?
Because I will, see if it happens.
Okay, so I guess the next, do we have to take this to a public hearing?
Yeah, if you guys are comfortable with the information presented, you can give them suggestions if you have any that you want them to come back with, but it sounds like you guys got the initial information you need. Set it down for a motion to set it down for a public hearing on the 18th.
Can I ask one more? I just don't want to
Yeah, absolutely.
backtrack too far, but I'm looking again. What would it take to move the pool filter?
The equipment?
The pool, whatever that's marked
Yeah,
right in the middle of the
sure.
setback.
But again, I don't believe that is a
It's not.
setback issue.
Okay.
Generally, in my experience, equipments have separate setbacks, and that's not at
If it's,
Not
if
here.
it's okay there, then
Yeah,
that's
that's,
fine.
I said it before, I'm
Fine.
okay with it. I
Right.
never,
Yeah.
as
Okay.
practice, I don't count that as an encroachment, so.
Sorry to belabor. That's all I got.
Okay.
So public hearing.
So do we, can we set up, we think the next meeting?
11/18 right now has, what does it have on it?
Right, we have nothing on the fourth, because that's election day, right? We don't have a meeting. We do have a couple things on the 18th, though.
I don't think they're in a rush.
On the road, I believe. is on the-
Pretty sure,
Yeah.
Right.
Healy and,
May I understand, you're living in the house now, right?
This is legal counsel.
I'm legal counsel, I'm just here to support him.
Oh, okay,
Doing
so
a great
this,
job.
this resident now,
There are two residents at the home.
He asked me
Would we want them to come, Tom, would we want them to be here, to like at least ask
Okay.
them to be here, the homeowners?
yeah, I think there should be, yeah, I mean, it's ultimately, it's their property and their project.
Is that possible? Is
Of
that something
course,
they're-
yeah, they asked us to handle this initial one, assuming that they would have to be at a public hearing later.
We have 2 public hearings scheduled for the 18th
18th.
already,
And it's Healy
Healy and Ontaroga.
and Ontaroga.
Yeah, is it fair to say that, based on the time of year, maybe that we could push them out?
It's
That's
not
what
like,
I'm
it's not
thinking,
like we're holding up
they
anything,
could be,
right?
they could be longer public meetings, because it's these big
Yeah,
projects.
and I'm not discounting the necessity to fix this, but just walking
The time-
outside,
it's
it
not-
felt
It's
like,
been there for 3 years
felt like
already.
you got a couple
They're
months.
gonna,
to
they're
work
gonna
with.
close the pool and not think about it again until March or April, so.
we should push it off then.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
move it to the
Let's-
next.
We might be,
December.
we're all the way into December now,
Right.
because we got Thanksgiving holiday.
But 25th is a Thanksgiving holiday, it's a Tuesday?
Well, I was thinking the holiday week. Let's just poll the group here before we go set public hearings.
I anticipate being around myself, I don't know about
Yeah.
other folks.
Likewise, yeah.
I know I'll be here.
Rather not be here, but I think I'll
Like-
be able to
like-
let that.
Like, meaning like right here?
But his
or-
sense of
No,
duty-
like in
his
here.
sense
Yeah,
of-
okay,
Like,
well,
I'd
I
love
wanna
to,
clarify.
you
I
know,
think it was just your sense of duty that was gonna keep you here.
All right, 25th, that work for you guys?
Okay.
November
I'm
25th.
not gonna miss no meetings at all.
Okay, so we
Hold
have.
on, hold on, hold on,
we'll
I'll
have quorum.
drop it.
Yeah.
No,
I'm not gonna miss, there won't be no meetings at all, because of the election day.
Right, that's right, I remember that
Fourth
from
is
last
no
time.
meeting because it's election day, and it's every month.
Yeah, I got you.
So we should, we should be good.
Oh, yeah, so I see what you're saying, so it would be in December, it would be in December,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Which is-
because we don't have that first meeting in November.
Right, so it would be December 2nd, okay, so that's not.
Totally fine.
Okay, good.
So as to notification,
Yeah.
who's gotta be notified, just contact Frank in the building department tomorrow, Grace will get you all the.
Yeah, we need to post notice,
Yeah.
and, yeah, of course.
Okay.
12/2, you said?
That's correct,
Yes.
You got it.
and, we need a
We
motion
didn't,
for
we have a motion for 12/2 or?
Motion to set public hearing for 13 Cedar Swamp Road for December 2nd.
at
I
7:30.
second it.
Got it.
7:30 PM.
Get in there, Chris.
December 2nd, do we have a second? Do we have a second to that?
We second it. We second it.
All right, we'll get Trina over again, he's got.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, guys. We will see you.
Thank you.
I don't think, and just for my own personal edification, I don't think any additional questions for us came up. Is there anything else that you guys would want us to prepare, aside from having the homeowners here for the public meeting?
Nothing that I can think of from the legal end.
No, I mean, I
And if
think,
it comes up, we'll
Yeah.
email you or give you a call.
No, it was pretty impressive when Sam showed me the Google
The area.
Earth, and showed me all, so you didn't show that here, that it's all growth on that side.
Yes.
And that is probably something that you should have probably considered. A lot of woods, trees, but you have that.
yeah, the geography
Yeah.
is unique in that regard.
Maybe a photo showing the
Yeah.
percentage of the pool, that's.
Yeah, of course.
Within guide.
I can
I think
present
that'll
that.
be probably.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
Yeah, that'll help us out.
That's a good idea, yeah.
So like a Google Earth image?
Yeah.
with,
Yeah, anything like that would be fine, you can
Fine.
superimpose some boundaries on it or whatever if you can.
Because we might have some other residents that meeting.
Of
and
course.
That'll show them
Yeah,
that you have a big, large buffer of live trees.
yeah.
And always concerned with precedent making.
Yeah, of
Tom
course.
and I talk about it all the time,
Yeah.
so the uniqueness of the situation is always,
Probably built 5,000 pools that the two of these
Yeah.
post dig, and precedent is
yeah.
always an issue. I get it.
Because then, yeah, then we'll have people purposely doing it.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah, thanks,
Keep in
guys.
touch if anything comes up. all right?
Thank you. All right. The next item on here is, I guess it's a continuance of the board discussion regarding 6 Gunwood and 8 Gunwood Drive. So 6 and 8 Gunwood Drive, Harness Estates, 27-10-2 and 27-10-3. It's a similar issue for both. So it's a variance granted for development within the floodplain and ponding area overlay district, FP 97-2/Stream Corridor and Reservoir Watershed Overlay District, SC 97-26, Aquifer Overlay District, AQ3 97-27.
Okay. So I'm gonna catch everybody back up to speed. I know we discussed this last time, and it was coming in at a very fast pace to everybody. I provided everybody kind of a memo to hopefully educate a little bit more. I want to recap how we got to where we got to. Applicant's counsel is here, we've talked. I'm gonna give him an opportunity to talk, which is only right, but I want to just kind of give a procedural background. So, at June meeting, where we, I think it was June meeting, but
It was the June meeting, yeah.
we decided on a 3-2 vote that we would grant variances to the 3 sections of the code mentioned by Tom. However, in the decision, because of the way the decision was written, which did not contain any metrics that would allow someone to understand what the variance was, it reads like there was a variance from that entire section of the code, or all 3 sections of the code, which has multiple effects. One is that essentially it nullified the planning board's jurisdiction to operate with special permit and site plan approval, which I can't speak to the group's intention, but certainly once that was revealed, it was indicated to me that some people didn't expect that to happen, myself included. The second thing is harkening back to precedent. We just created a situation where it's not specific or unique to, it is unique property, but the decision is just a waiver of the entire section. And now, counsel for the applicant will advise you there are other options besides what is potentially in front of you tonight. The other option is the conditions can be placed upon the applicant and the property owner prior to issuing a building permit that in sum and substance could replicate what a planning board can do. So I anticipate that being brought up. That is an option. The other option is that the board, if they choose to, can revisit the decision and either rescind it in its entirety, or more likely would be to correct the language that would support the intent of what the board was trying to do that night. And certainly going back, and I've directed everybody to go back and watch the videos, whether you're trying to read someone's intent or not, the words were very clear that it, let's go into the planning board. So whether that changes people's vote or not, that's not my decision. So in the event that this motion was raised and then passes, and I'll tell you procedurally how that would work, it would be set down for a public hearing, and we would be basically back where we were the night of the public hearing. It may be 2 public, it may be one night and adjourned, who knows, but it's back at the night where a decision can be made. At that time, if that comes back, You'll be presented language that potentially could effectuate your wishes. I think the applicant would present his own thoughts, whether they're, if this, then this, or if in the alternative, do this. He has a right to certainly present that to you guys. So I want to clarify what we can do and give an idea. So we're taking 9725, right? There's a number of things that 9725 talks about, right? It starts off like most code, why this section exists, where it covers, et cetera, et cetera. So in 9725, which is the floodplain and ponding area overlay district, and I'm not giving you language that would be in this decision if you guys effectuate it that way, but I want to give you an idea. There is only one little area you really can vary from. You can't vary from the purpose of the intent of the section. You can deviate or vary from the construction standards, right? We're talking about things like setbacks and levels of where the height of the build at, things of that nature. So in the Aquifer Overlay District, you have a requirement of 3 acres per dwelling unless connected to public water and sewer to limit impervious coverage, things of that nature. So there's availability for variance in there. How we got here it's kind of confusing, but if the board believes that the intent of what their decision was not effectuated, you have the option of bringing it back and rewriting it where it would carry forward what the intent of the board was. I don't want to get lost in the language that would be necessary to do that tonight, because it's a lot and it's not rare, it's not unheard of, it's just not, well, you've been doing this for a few years and it hasn't happened, right? These things do happen and there is a mechanism for it. But being that it's the first time in front of this group to insert the language and do all that, I think it's a little premature. And certainly before any motions are made, I want to give the applicant's attorney an opportunity to be heard out of courtesy, and I think that certainly you guys should hear all sides of this. Before I do that, do you guys have any questions about anything I've said thus far?
No, I think we understand where we are and what the effect of the decision that was drafted was and signed. I think one of the things we'll want to do, and this kind of gets back to the language, but I think we need to get to it, is like, what was really at the heart of the issue that led to them seeking the variance, and figure out if there are ways to measurably and quantifiably define that variance.
And I think that,
And I think I don't want to, drag us into that, because I think you're right. So let's move that to the next time.
yeah, and I would like to have the, if the motion might not go through, so I don't want to get lost on the back end. And also, if it does go through, I want to try to have a collaborative effort with the applicant's attorney to make sure that the next time it does what it's supposed to do, and that it's attainable and achievable for the applicant, and we're not setting some, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to get lost too much in there. So, Charlie.
Sure.
I'll sit and talk, Stan?
Sure,
Whatever's
just make sure you give your name again.
Sure.
We know who you are, but.
Okay, Charlie Bezidlo, I'm the attorney for the applicant here. Let me start off by saying that if you do nothing and you let the decision stand as it is right now, I think the town as a whole ends up in the exact same position. That being that what the planning board would potentially come out with would be a condition that says, well, your site plan says the lots have to be raised up 2 feet, which we knew that already. That's part of the floodplain development process anyway. And then it may also say that you have to have some sort of compensatory volume created for the part of the one lot that's in the floodway as opposed to the floodplain. And we have that. We presented a plan to the building department that shows that. So I think in the end result, Frank, as the building inspector, can issue a floodplain development permit that would have those conditions in it. As well as probably also a condition that says, understand you build a house, nothing else can get built on
Charlie, you
it.
said site plan, you would get site plan approval, you
No,
meant building
no,
permit.
no, if you,
meant a building permit.
if I said site plan, I meant
Okay.
building permit,
Okay.
I meant building permit. That the building department would issue that floodplain development permit, building permit, and you'd be in the same position as if it had gone through the whole planning board process. But two things about, well, probably more than two things, I'll say two, but I might end up with four. The fact of the matter is, we're sitting here tonight, there is a written decision. That written decision was interpreted by the planning board's attorney, that it takes away the planning board's jurisdiction. Doesn't relieve the requirement of having to get this floodplain development permit, but it does take away the planning board's jurisdiction. I'm going to say, and I've expressed this to Rory, that decision's final. The 30-day statute of limitation to challenge it is gone. This board couldn't bring a challenge against it, the town board couldn't, and most importantly, no neighbor could bring a challenge against it either. That's part of the town law. The second thing that I asked the board to consider, and this is a very vital point, the process that your attorney will tell you to go through, if you want to go through that, to rescind the decision, there's a very important part to that, and that is that I'll use the legal term, I believe you're barred from doing that if there's been detrimental reliance on the existing decision, and there has been. Following that appearance at the planning board, we immediately went ahead and we developed the necessary plans to submit the floodplain development permit. That was done. That cost the applicant several thousands of dollars. We had to make additional escrow payments into the town for the building department to review it. I believe that was like another $1,000. So we're several $1,000s into this process already, and that permit application's sitting there, and it can be acted upon. So if I believe that bar has been created, that we've taken the written decision based upon what happened at the planning board, we've relied upon it, we've moved forward with it. So your attorney may disagree, or he may slightly disagree, partially disagree, but I don't believe the board has the authority to do the rescission. All right. But again, that may be the negative way of looking at it. The positive way of looking at it is that I believe you end up in the same position anyway. The town ends up in the same position, that these two lots can be developed in compliance with your floodplain development law. And again, keeping in mind, we're talking about, it's two raised ranches that we're talking about building here in a neighborhood that's a whole neighborhood of raised ranches. So it's not like we're talking about a huge apartment building or a shopping center at the end of a residential street. So I think that's important for the board to keep in mind. So.
I sent the board my thoughts on detrimental reliance. I feel like the applicant and the applicant's attorney were fully under the impression they were going to have to go through the planning board process. The hiring of an engineer would have still had to take place. The escrows still would have to take place. I don't know, there's not necessarily a bright line rule, $3,000 to someone building 2 homes. I understand where Charlie would say that. He's also the applicant's attorney, so I expect him to say that. I feel comfortable that you guys are positioned to do this without a bar. And that's my legal advice.
I mean, Charlie, the problem is that everything that this application was predicated on was that you went to the planning board, they sent you to us so you can go back to the planning board. So you came to us, and now the decision puts you in a situation where you're saying that you're just gonna upend everything that you articulated. Like everything that you articulated, every single step of the way was contingent, and we were all in agreement at every single step of the way that the necessary steps that needed to happen was that it was gonna go to the planning board. You agreed at every single meeting, including at the public hearing and at the first meeting. And so, understanding that, it's hard to see how you could take the position that you just want to proceed without undertaking the step that was the fundamental purpose of this entire application.
I know this board was concerned about would there be an environmental, effect or environmental, I hate to use the word environmental impact, but an environmental consequence of building these two lots? And as we said from the beginning, there isn't. You still have the floodplain development law that requires us to grade the properties so that the houses are up out of the flood elevation. Limits any other development that could happen out there. And also we have the ability to do the compensatory storage by using the lot, a portion of the lot next door. That's where we'd end up if we had gone through the whole planning board process. Now, keep in mind, the planning board process, it's extremely complicated. When the initial review from the planning board's engineer, he's talking about at least one public hearing, maybe two. And he's talking about you have to comply with this, comply with that. A lot of procedural steps, several thousands of dollars. Every time.
All of which, I note, were contemplated.
Right.
So I again, if I was in Charlie's position, the ability to avoid the planning board process, yeah, I mean, anybody would want to hop on that, but I can't disagree with that part about it. But I don't think that's detrimental reliance in the spirit of what detrimental reliance is, and I'm telling you that I'm comfortable with giving you legal advice that you're not barred. I don't think it's reached the level of detrimental reliance in what the spirit of detrimental reliance is supposed to be for, because while we passed 30 days, the only thing the applicant is harmed by is having to go back and do it the way that it was, again, barring your terms because you're saying it, so I'm not saying it, is that what the intention was, right, the entire time. So to say that I have to go through all these hoops, well, we left here that night, and this is the first time I'm hearing all these things that could have been other options, right? That could, if they were presented at that time, maybe they would have been incorporated. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I can't go back in time and say that.
Can I get a little bit of clarification in
Sure.
that? The option is we rescind that altogether, or is there a way to modify that decision?
I think the intent. I think the if you guys go off of what changed the words and the way the dais was interacting with this project was the safety net of the planning board, right? So I don't think you can rescind. I don't know that that's what necessarily you guys, if you can get it to where it's palatable and it's legally sufficient, where the planning board still has jurisdiction, for site plan approval and special permit, then what I heard from the group and what I tried to incorporate into the decision is that, the concerns about the neighbors and the environmental consequences, because I do agree that's a different than environmental impact, those things would be protected, which I thought was writing the decision, listening to it, reviewing the notes, reviewing the videos was what was the intent of the yays of the dais. So that being said, you do have the right, and I think what I'll forecast, so Charlie doesn't even have to say it, is, that's a significant shift from what the board wanted to do the night it voted, right? And that, we would be legally subject to potentially an Article 78. Charlie is right, the only entity or persons left with the ability to do that would be the applicant in the face of either rescinding or revising. Even revising, they could file suit against us. And we're always subject to lawsuits. So I think, again, there's humans on the other end of decisions, but I think from reading the law and understanding the law, I believe we'd be, certainly with the revision, I don't think we would be in harm's way.
Rory, would I be right if I said that if we proceeded under the decision as written, it could potentially be the case that if someone else came and tried to get a variance within one of those overlays, it could be problematic whether or not we wanted to enforce those area variances for those overlays going forward. That's
my concern would be that we're neutering the planning board process, right? And Charlie is right. Frank can place the conditions, all right, and on a macro level effectuate the same type of
Right,
restrictions or
and I agree.
conditions, not restrictions.
And I agree with you completely, and that's the problem, because you tell us we're getting to the same place at the end, but we're not. Because ultimately, the end around the planning board, like it just, that entire significant legal element would potentially impact the town going forward.
Well, Sarah, I would disagree with that, because if you remember back in the beginning of this application, I thought then, and I still think today, sitting here, this board does have the ability to waive all of those sections for these lots, because of the uniqueness of these lots.
Oh, and we did.
Yeah, and you did.
Right, but that was not the intent, that doesn't seem to be the intent of the group, so yes, we did. And like I said to you, you know, either you missed it also, or you didn't miss it. And so, which one do you want? And I would prefer that I would be known as just missing and not standing here with the group thinking that it's going to the planning board, knowing that you're gonna circumvent that. So I don't know, I mean, that part is tricky,
And if I can add one fact, I think that's pertinent, that if we do prescribe conditions that would make this decision in line with what we
Well, it's in there, the conditions are in there, but before you
Right.
can get to the conditions of planning board, the variance on 9726 strips the planning board essentially of their
Right.
ability to even
And
have conditions.
essentially, if we do put meets and bounds distances on the decision that would allow it to go forward in the procedure that we intended on, you're saying that the end wouldn't be different. You would go to the planning board, you would get the same approval that you would otherwise need from a building permit, and so how would it would be the intended step, and it wouldn't change your outcome here.
It would be probably 6 months more and several thousands of dollars more.
But that's
more
what
effort.
the intent was when we did this originally. We all sat here in agreement and nodded our heads saying, yes, it's gonna go to the planning board. So that's not in addition to what we all sat here and agreed to. So I'm not sharing your argument there. That's something that your client would have to go through regardless. That was the intent. So I think that's, right, we were going through that process.
Why were there any additional fees or costs to the homeowner or the landowner, considering what transpired at the planning board meeting? Why would they have gone forward with spending any additional money considering that meeting?
Was at the planning board meeting, it was expressed by the planning board's attorney, and at the time that the planning board doesn't have jurisdiction, however, and the planning board engineer also expressed this too.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, it doesn't, you can't just go out and get a building permit, you have to go ahead now and apply for the floodplain development permit, which is what we did, and that required an engineering analysis to do that.
They didn't give you any of I mean, during that meeting, I think, I recall, it was, maybe I misheard, but it was with the intentions of basically sending back to the ZBA at some point at that meeting?
No, that was not local, that's the options that came about post them, the planning board attorneys saying that they didn't have jurisdiction anymore. And yeah, if I was an applicant, following a decision like that, unexpected, yeah, I mean, and you go to the next steps as quick as you can. Why wouldn't you?
But you went to the planning board, so you anticipated that the decision did fall in line with what we said, and it was only the planning board attorney who gave you this avenue that you're on now. To his credit, I mean, to his credit, maybe to his credit.
Again, but the fact of the matter is, we're sitting here today, there's a written decision that's there.
Do you dispute that there's a mechanism to revise it?
There's a mechanism to revise it, but I think where you and I have a disagreement about whether that mechanism is available or not.
Oh, I understand but putting aside the detrimental reliance argument, and just for a second, you don't dispute that the board can bring it back, and it could come back and nothing can happen, as you know. They could decide to not do anything. The motion that would be put forth tonight would only bring it back for reconsideration. You agree, right? It doesn't force them to rescind, revise, or do anything. It's reconsideration.
I think that the action of the board to even go that far, I think that's actionable. I think that last, and I know you're relying on 267A, I think it's 12, whatever.
It's in
11,
there.
12, it's further down, right, yeah. And, you know, it's one of the last lines, and that says, but this isn't available if someone has already, you know, I don't know the exact, I'm
Well,
not the exact
it's,
words, but some.
again, you know the, what detrimental reliance requires, right? And there is no, like I said, there's no bright line rule of when you cross that threshold, right? So it's just, it's two people interpreting. I would expect you to interpret it that way. I'm trying to, my interpretation is intended to be neutral because I have a fallback, right? So when I'm saying it, I believe what I'm saying because I'm looking at it from the perspective of protecting the town in its entirety. So walking them into that with what I would say is, I'm never gonna say anybody who spends money like $3,000 is, you know, I'm not gonna sneeze at that. But when we're talking about the grand scheme here, really what are you all those things, those expenditures would have to have been taken regardless. So you spent it already. That's the same money you would have to spend anyway. Going back to the planning board is not, first off, it hasn't happened yet, so you can't tie it to detrimental reliance, right? Two, that's part of the process that the board intended. So you'd be arguing that after the decision. I just don't think that holds water. I really don't. I mean, we're talking about people who went and hired, you know, the significance of 2 homes, I think, you're not talking about a whole subdivision. You're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars breaking ground, doing things like that. We're only a month out from, or 2 months out from, we're 3 weeks out from the planning board meeting, a month out from when you find out that, you know, you have this other avenue. And you take action because it's an opportunity, right? You know, you gotta act on it. So I just don't see it, and I'm talking to him, but I'm really talking to you guys. But that's on me. I'm the legal advisor, and that's my opinion to you guys. I don't think that line has been passed at all, and especially with some of the idea that they expected to go to the planning board. So when they found out, oh wow, it's great, and they act upon those things, those actions would have taken place after the planning board process. So we're just, I'm kind of saying the same thing, so that's my thoughts.
But
Now-
I think the primary concern for us, we made a decision, it's 2 properties, right? And there's issues, there were issues with flooding, access to the property during flooding, those kinds of things. And we wanted them to go to the planning board for review of all those pieces. We certainly didn't want to, you know, strip the planning board of its authority, and we didn't want to set a precedent and rewrite town code.
Nor did you wanted the guy who bought the property to be able to build his home. So you wanted everybody to win.
Exactly. So I think, and I can't make this motion apparently, but I think we want to open this up for another.
So let me talk about procedure in the event you guys want to make the motion, because at some point either the motion's got to be made or we move on, and it is what it is, right? So to recap, because I sent language to everybody, it's pretty straightforward. It was a 3-2 vote. On the day, it's that day where the only switch would be James and Kevin. The yays were Sam, Bob, and Trino. The motion would have to be made by one of the 3, Trino, Bob, Sam, and seconded by one of the 3, Trino, Bob, Sam. And then when it goes to the dais, it has to be unanimous to bring it back for reconsideration.
And
I have a written motion in the event that you guys choose to do that.
And
Votes
who
that have to be
votes?
consistent are that the motion and the second have to be made by,
But in terms of you.
James would be able to vote whether the motion carries.
Got it.
But it has to be unanimous, right? So
That's my
the only days that has to be consistent is 2 of the 3 have to be participating in the motion being made. 2 of the 3 yays. If you want to make it super clean, then James can step off and Ken can sit in, but I don't think that, to me, my research, that does not affect it. And that same would go with whatever you guys wind up doing at the end, whether you rescind, revise, or do nothing.
The process is the same.
When we get to that stage, it is, yes.
but we still
Right
have
now,
to-
this is
We still
unique.
have to move this to further discussion in public.
This is a
hearing.
unique motion. The rest of the stuff would fall back in line the way you guys go to public hearings normally. It just, but I don't wanna get to that part. Yes, go ahead, Trina.
No, I just wanted a little bit of education that I
Yep.
missed after all these years on this board. I don't know about Bob and Sam, but when we were going through this the first time, my understanding was we were going over one thing, whether you're allowed to build a house facing a road that is built in the floodplain. Was I the only who made it that simple, or?
I think it's kind of that simple, except that it involves
That's what I'm
three.
saying. What happened after
If-
that?
if
What
I-
happened after that, yes.
Well, what happened after it is the way that I wrote the decision, because we didn't have any meets and bounds, and that's a, you know, that's on, I'll fall on my sword. The applicant can choose to fall on it or not, but we didn't have enough data in that decision to explain where the variance was. There was a variance written for the whole section of that code, right? So it's that section is a complete bar for this applicant to build in there unless we give a variance, but the variance can't be to the whole section because it's gotta be towards the measurables. And that's a very, if you wanna chime in on, I know you don't wanna help out on this too much, but at some point that might be the case that Charlie would have to, you know, also have an insight into the decision because they have an opportunity to chime in on decisions if they don't agree that it's written in a way that effectuates what they believed they were getting. So, you know, this is a two-way street on that.
But I agree with Katrina, I thought that was the key piece to it, the rest of it was.
Okay.
Well, they kind of overlap.
They do overlap.
You know,
but-
they're all,
but As I understood that section, it was kind of, your road's in the floodplain or not. Yet that's kind of a binary decision. I don't know how we make that measurable, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
that's what I'm trying to
So-
avoid for tonight.
Right, but I think that's the kind of thing we need to talk about, and when we move to that, if we move to that next level, I mean, do you guys want to discuss this more? Do you think we should move this to reopen the public hearing and discuss it?
And I'll also answer a question you guys haven't asked, but as far as, for lack of a better term, duty to mitigate, once the applicant was on notice of this potential reconsideration, I believe that any expenditures after that are at their own risk. I don't think you can compile a detrimental reliance once you're on notice. So we're talking about a small time period here from the planning board meeting. That's not true. I take that back. From the decision to the last meeting, I believe is the area where the applicant can make their detrimental reliance case, and I still think every step they took would be part of the process. But I don't know all the steps they took, so you know, I might find out later on that there was other things done, but as far as I'm concerned and what they've done, that there's no outliers, standard stuff that would be done, hiring an engineer, escrow, the things represented by council on the record are what I'm basing off of my detrimental reliance guidance to you guys.
And if I could just say, again, you know, rather than Rory and I going back and forth about legalism back and forth, I'd ask this board to strongly consider the fact that if you go down this path and we go back into the planning board, another public hearing here, 2 public hearings over there, we're gonna end up in the same spot. Except that we're gonna be 6 months down the road.
And that we've emasculated the planning board's role in this.
What I'm saying, the only time that seems lost, it would be the time from where you would have been in the queue in the planning board to when this gets resolved, which could be in less than a month.
It's not gonna be a month.
No, I'm talking about the time you lost that you're claiming you would lose by having to go back to the planning board is only the time from when the planning board ceded jurisdiction to the time where you're back before them. Otherwise, you didn't lose, that's the time you lose. And you're not building during that time, right?
The client has an active permit in with the building department right now.
Sure.
It could be issued tomorrow. we could be building tomorrow.
That's not an accurate statement. There's an application in place, not a permit, and you would have to do the floodplain permit prior anyway.
Which you have. You have the
You have the
application.
application,
You have the application.
not
yes.
the permit.
Oh, and this one, the application's there, it can be acted upon. It could be acted upon tomorrow, and that permit, that building permit could be issued. We could be building next week, we could be grading this property next week. So if I go back through this process, I'm back here for a public hearing maybe January.
Listen,
And look, if I could just finish, I could be back here, I just want to be clear, the board understands what they may be doing. Be back here in January, January goes into February, maybe I get a decision out here, I go back to the planning board, I'm back there March, April, May. I'm probably in June before.
I think any court was gonna look at the transcripts, you stood before this board with the full understanding, we're going back to the planning board I don't think that's gonna hold water. I think that, the court's gonna see right through that, frankly, and I disagree vehemently. So at this point, be mindful, taking this action right now without rescinding or revising, I don't think exposes you to the doomsday scenario, because you haven't done anything yet other than reconsider it or vote to motion to have it back to reconsider with more data. You may, at the end of it, say, you know what, Charlie's right, there's no real way to do this, and you can express what you think would have been the conditions you wanted, and Frank can write them. So I'm not here to, I'm here to tell you that legally, I don't feel that you guys are exposing the town to litigation.
Bro.
So my question, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go, Trina.
My question boils down to, one of us has to make a motion, so and second, and then vote to read. So what we would be doing, or is this, could this be one of the results? We bring it back, if every, we get a unanimous vote, and we go through it again, and then we would then require a much more explicit and strict variance.
There'd
So
be two
that-
things you'd be looking to do. One would be to ensure that you don't strip the
Well, that's
planning
what I
board's
mean, yeah.
jurisdiction, based on what you guys are
Yeah.
saying. And make sure you craft it, and make sure I, by way of your words, craft it in a way that makes it unique, so it's not subject to, we have a cavalcade of people coming in with, trying to circumvent overlay districts.
Well, that's what I mean, if we restrict in such a manner that we thought we were giving a variance on one particular point, well, at least I did, and I think the other guys did too.
Well, I don't
And
think that's
apparently
gonna
when it's
change,
not
I don't
there-
think that part's gonna change, Trina. I think the spirit of what you guys were trying to do would be tucked, and this is part of why I don't wanna get too deep in exactly how it would be written, but the idea conceptually would be to get them back to where you wanted them to be with the language to protect
That the,
future decisions.
that the
And-
planning
and
board would still have authority to.
that's what the idea would be.
Right,
If-
okay,
if-
okay.
If I'm understanding everybody's thought, that would be what you would be looking at, yes.
Rory, about town law 12,
267,
267,
A12.
A12. It seems like the procedure only lays out one way to do it, where we would bring back an entire rehearing and it would take us back to a revote, which worries me, because that would give this board the opportunity then to change the vote. Would you advise us to not change the vote so that?
I'm
we
not
can
gonna
make-
advise, I will advise that I would, and the applicant, I think, would certainly not support this, but conceptually, rescinding would expose you much more to potential litigation than revisiting. Because if you're talking about what your intentions were to let these homes be built with conditions. That's what the data shows. So, I'm not gonna tell you how to vote on it. I think it would be in the hands of the three that voted yay to figure that out.
If we were here.
Well, listen, then, I think that's something that we wanna make sure that you have the right cross-section of people here. You know, James was at every Gumwood meeting but the final one, right? Presumably, even if he was a no, you're trading out a no already. So if you do math on it, really it's gonna come down to the 3 yays and where they stand that night and the input from the others. You may have 5 yays because you have the language that conditions it for you guys to be comfortable. You may rescind because you don't like that it happened.
But there's no other procedural way to enter into that arena without going in, just opening up the entire can.
I don't know one, and that law's, you know.
I read it the same way. I'm
Yeah,
just like,
there's, you guys could table the motion, you could get to the public hearing and say, you know what? No, we're just not gonna do anything, and then it goes to Frank.
But I think, just as I recall, the discussion that night, some of the nays, myself included, I felt we weren't specific enough. And I was afraid we were gonna do some of the things we're doing now. So I think, you know, I think we need to go through the process again and talk about it. And if we can make it specific enough and defined enough, that then I think that it supports us revisiting it. I'm not.
It's tricky because to present you language now,
I'm
you know,
not
I know everybody
looking for
wants
that.
to know what take a simple thing like, take something like the pool, right? The setback that we just had, 30 feet, and then they want 5 feet, right? Imagine it just, you don't have you know, there's a variance from 97-25. That's essentially, on a very, very simple
Right.
level, that's essentially what the decision did, right?
Yeah,
It
I
just
got
waived
it.
the whole part of the code there.
I got you. No,
right?
that
So
was my
that's all.
concern, and I had that on
I know
record.
there's not as many meets and bounds in those 3 sections like we're used to, right? Because some of it's environmental in nature, but that language there'll be language passed around. If it gets to that point, the planning board attorney, despite Charlie not wanting that to happen, I certainly would encourage collaboration so that there's an understanding and that we don't wind up in this situation again, or that it gets decided as quickly as possible. So it isn't creating an issue for the applicant.
No, and I agree, exactly, I'm agreeing with you and Sam. I don't necessarily think anybody's looking to upend a decision, but I think we definitely need to define it in a way that we don't overstep our authority. And I think that's important. I just want to say that, because again, I can't make that motion, because I was not in the affirmative. So, but I want people, I think we should be looking at it from the perspective of making sure that we're doing our job without legislating, without undermining other boards and other authorities, and you know, looking at this from the broad perspective of what the implications of a decision that was not intended to be that way could be long term.
And I agree with Tom, and I guess my thought is, if we can't get it to be more contained, the variance to be more strict, whatever.
It can be.
If we can't do that, then there's no sense in rescinding it.
Correct.
We want the houses to be built.
Well, rescind, revise are two different,
Okay.
very, very significantly different
But
things.
what you're saying as counsel is that if we take back the decision, right, and then we go forward again, and we get to the point of where we can then, in some manner, constrain what can be done without the planning board, which is nothing. We want them to be involved in it. Am I saying it right, or?
I think, and I was gonna ask, I mean, is it worth, cause like, I don't know if you don't want to, but like, I was thinking about what those meets, like, would be.
I would absolutely take any input. I spoke with our new planning board attorney, asked for his opinion, so when it gets to there, you know, we had to, whatever. So when it gets to there, it holds water, right?
Right, I mean,
if that happens, and again, I wanna put this is on, you know, I'm trying to anticipate the movements of the board here, so I'm prepared for the motion to be made, right? And then what happens after that, right? And then if it eventually gets revised and goes back, obviously we wanna make sure that the planning board still has the ability to act. And that's why, like, I say, not ironically, for lack of a better term, that I would be incorporating the applicant's
Right.
input, yours, anybody that's got a way that makes them feel comfortable that their wish is being effectuated. Your lawyer's saying, if someone reads a contract, they don't know what it, you know what you meant by it, but they can't figure it out, an objective eye can't figure it out, then it's not written.
And Charlie, if the board creates those meets, those measurements that are basically gonna like mirroring the 410 feet, like what you put forward in your application, how is it gonna prejudice you? I mean, aside from the time that, you're mentioning, it's not. And so,
Because it'll be back exactly, to borrow the terminology, it'll be back exactly where, it'll play out the exact way it would have played. That it plays out for, the idea of a variance circumventing the planning board is it's not, I don't think it's what the intention is. So I think at this point, there's been enough said, unless Charlie wants to have a final comment, which I don't wanna mute you over here, so, because I'm looking at them and I know you've got a lot of comments.
I have a lot of comments, I have a lot of comments, but I won't say them all. Again,
Two of them.
I'll say that however we got to this point, it is what it is. But what we're sitting here today is that there's a written decision that's out there. The planning board interpreted it how they wanted to interpret it. They were the ones that said they thought they didn't have jurisdiction. That's fine, we relied upon that, we moved forward. And I think the actions that we took to move forward on that is a bar against this board taking further action. And again, I try to soften what sounds like a very harsh and illegal conclusion with the fact that I don't think it's a big issue because you end up with the development of these houses the same way. They're gonna be raised up, they're gonna be limited to what what can be built on it. It could all be done by the floodplain development permit that the building department could issue on the application that's in front of them right now. So.
All right, if the board intends to, or one of the three folks that can make a motion, intends to make a motion, I drafted a motion, I'll read it into the record. If no one's gonna make a motion, then the discussion's over and you can make a motion to close the meeting. So there's gonna be a motion either way.
So I guess we're calling for a motion to
If someone wants to make a motion, I'll read it in.
yeah, why don't you read it and then we'll decide whether, or do you not read it in if we don't wanna, because that's kind of.
Well, I think the intent of the motion is to bring it back. I'll just read it, I'll read it. And
Why don't you read it, then we can
Sure.
decide whether that's the motion we wanna submit.
Okay. I, one of the three yeas, having voted with the majority on the June 17, 2025 decision of the Town of Goshen's ZBA granting an area variance to Harness Estates LLC for the properties, there will be two motions, okay, because there's two applications, right?
Got it,
So,
got it.
understanding I'm reading
Yep.
one. Harness Estates LLC for the property located at 6 Gumwood Drive, SBL 2710-2, hereby move pursuant to Town Law, Section 267-A, subsection 12, that the board reconsider the decision for the limited purpose of clarifying and, if necessary, modifying the scope of the variance so that it is tied to specific measurable dimensional criteria and expressly preserves planning board jurisdiction under sections 9725 through 9727 of the Town Code. This motion is made upon the advice of council that the prior decision may have inadvertently granted relief broader than intended, and that the clarification will ensure full compliance with the Town Law, Section 267-B, and applicable case law. If seconded and approved by a unanimous vote of the full board, the clerk is directed to schedule a notice of public rehearing pursuant to Town Law, Section 267-A, sub 7 and sub 12, providing at least 5 days public notice to the official newspaper and mail notice to applicant, adjoining property owners, planning board, and building inspector. That motion would be made and then seconded by one of the yays, and then a unanimous vote of the board, and then you do it again for 8 Gumwood, if you guys choose to do that. And I will just put this into the record of the minutes.
As I heard you read that though, what I didn't hear is if there's not a way, and I'm not saying there is not a way, but if there's not a way to put measurable and quantify.
It's just reconsider, that's why the term reconsider.
I just wanna make sure that it wasn't.
I'll read it back
handcuffing
again.
us to only revising the decision, that there's not a way
There's-
to
But
modify the
listen to it
decision.
again and then tell me if that, because I can understand that. That the board reconsider the decision for the limited purpose of clarifying and, if necessary, modifying the scope of the variance so that it is tied to the specific measurable dimensional criteria and expressly preserves the planning board jurisdiction. So, to me, it's you're bringing it back to clarify and, if necessary, meaning you find a way, or you feel there's a way, or you feel the necessity, then you can reconsider and revise. Right now, the motion doesn't say revise, rescind. It's bringing it back to reconsider whether it can be,
Reconsider, I'm comfortable.
yeah, and if necessary, it doesn't commit you, the only commitment is that it brings it back for public,
For discussion.
for discussion in a public setting,
Okay.
well, public hearing.
Rory, the way I read 27612, I mean, are you sure that it has to be me, Bob Vitrino?
I'm absolutely sure.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, or do you think that language gives the board the authority to just vote against granting any variance?
Vote against.
What Sam brought up about, it comes back in front of the board and it loses, it gets voted down.
I mean, no, I think that's a fair point, Charlie. I mean, it's the intent of this motion is to reconsider the decision for the limited purpose of clarifying and if necessary, modifying the scope of the variance. So that it's tied to a specific language.
Well, I guess this is why, the crux of my problem. The road being in the floodplain was the issue, right? And as I remember that,
As we understood it.
it was a binary decision. We either said you can build a house that the road is inaccessible during a flood, or you can't. And that was my concern, and why I voted no, was because I didn't think I thought that was, overriding that portion of the town code. If we reconsider this and we come to a point where we say, there's no way to measurably say, oh, it's only 15 inches below the floodplain, or it's 6 feet below the floodplain, how do we measure that if that part of the town code doesn't give us a measure? And it does not- it's not like-
I believe there are measurables that you can tie to this to not leave the entire section.
They're definitely measurables with 25 and 26.
Right.
Definitely.
27 speaks very much on environmental, more environmental.
I just wanna make sure that
I understand. No,
that we're not voting into something that we.
it's so 20.
We're back where we were.
Right.
25 has elevations and setbacks. 26 has buffer setbacks. 27 has lot area and coverage. It's more about identifying them as much, and they may be 100% variances, okay? But the point is that you're not waiving the entire overlay district, and then by doing that, that's where the planning board loses its jurisdiction.
Well, that's what I wanna make sure we're not getting ourselves back in the same corner, that's all.
Yeah, no, I understand that. At the first meeting, I didn't have a direct answer for you on that, like how it could be. But if you look in each section, there's a measurable that
Okay.
would allow it to be distinguishable also from other variance requests.
And if this motion is made and applicant's council does have a collaborative effort with you, I can't speak for the board, but for myself, that would be the main thing that I would take into consideration, and I would hope that would occur.
Well, if you know, we'll see how well Charlie and I play together after this, but
That's what I was getting at.
no, I think there's a certain point, if you get to that, yeah, I think the applicant's gonna wanna, Charlie clearly knows what he's doing, so, if he chooses to participate, great, if he doesn't, I don't know if it should be held against him, but I'll be certainly collaborating with our planning board attorney to make sure when it lands there, if it does, that it's palatable for them. And that's really all that's all I can do, so as to, well, your call, Tom.
I guess, I would put it out there, is there a motion to move forward?
As presented.
As Roy presented and read it into the.
So move.
And
I'll second it.
So we have two,
And
two
then
from
you,
the
and you would, and I'll do a roll call just to make it even cleaner, but it would have to be unanimous, so, obviously, I'll start with Sammy,
Aye.
who made the motion.
Aye, I vote in favor.
Bob,
Aye.
Trino,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Okay. So, what do we say dates? We have the 18th and we have December 2nd. Obviously, I wanna get you in as quick as I can, probably, I know, we have 2 public hearings scheduled for the 18th.
We gotta do both.
Huh?
We gotta do both.
Oh, thank you. I still got to schedule, yeah, well,
I just wanna make sure.
no, thank you, appreciate that. After we schedule this, we're gonna have to do a motion on 8 Gunwood,
Yeah.
okay?
Um,
Got it.
I would, if the group, being that we only meet once in November, I'm not trying to keep us here till like 9 o'clock, but I would strongly encourage the board to consider allowing, this to be tacked on the 18th. To expedite some of the stuff here, so,
It's gonna get Charlie 2 9 o'clock stuff. We got tonight and we got another one. Just making sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm a night owl. That's all.
yeah, it's kind of the lifestyle
That's
of
kind
a
of the
municipal
lifestyle.
attorney.
That was more like you're causing us to.
I didn't realize it was that close to 9 already. So, if you're good with that, are you guys all right with tacking it on? If not,
Eight now?
Well, yeah, but first we have.
I think it would be fair to. make
I'd
sure
like
we
to
get
try to
through
do
it.
the 18th if we can. I don't want,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to
I have no
drag this out.
problem.
no, I think the 18th
Let's
is.
get it done.
All right, good. All
Let's
right,
get it
so the
My motion
motion,
was for 6 Gunwood.
6 Gunwood,
So we'll need a second motion
for 8
8
Gunwood,
Gunwood.
and then,
and a second, so
So do the same, so move on eight.
Bob makes the motion,
I'll second it.
Trino seconds.
roll call, Sam,
Vote in favor, aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Trino,
Aye.
James.
Aye.
Okay, and, motion set the, 6 Gunwood Drive down for, I mean, it's in here, but the date, let me just amend those motions and, sorry, to include the date of November 18th.
Sure.
All right, I apologize, they're tied, but,
What we got?
okay. Talk to you.
Very good. We'll talk.
Contact our office for the mailing.
So-
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Calling.
we're gonna, in case someone moved, you gotta do it again, I guess.
$300.
Just go to your argument, I guess, you know?
Exactly, so, okay.
All right.
All right, very good.
Thanks,
All
Charlie.
right, thank you.
So, is there anything else, so we've got some stuff, we've got 4 projects on for the 18th.
Three public hearings,
Okay.
Healy, Ontaroga, and this.
This, but there's 2 in essence, I mean, because we got.
Oh, my
Because if
apologies.
we have to go through the.
You can do
factors,
joint public hearing on
We can
that.
do that, but the 5 factors are gonna be
No doubt.
been separate, so
I
it does,
understand, yes.
just trying to lay it out, so we've got the 4 projects on for the 18th, and we've got, the pool on for
12th.
December 2nd. We just wanna keep.
And then we got, our station, 10, 6.5 Station Road floating around as well, right? Or, yeah, because they're looking, that's the warehouse, or not the warehouse, it's the extension of.
Yeah,
Those are in the queue,
yes,
off the top of my head.
and there's also the potential for a joint public hearing
Correct.
on the battery storage facility.
Correct. I'm gonna leave that because I gotta check back with the applicant to see if they're still on track for that. Because they're in front of all 3 boards, so it's very,
Is that one on 17N?
that's on Hartley Road, the battery storage, Best
Okay,
Hartley
got
Road.
it.
Behind my tab there.
Right, they were at the planning board last week.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. All right, motion to close.
Do we have a motion?
I'll motion to close the meeting.
Sam,
I'll second it.
Trino seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, guys. Thank you.